acting all high and mighty over just 30,000 shillings? We don't need your pocket change. Laughing at themselves, my son and his wife looked down on me and hurled cruel words because they said they were struggling financially. I had supported them for 10 years, despite seeing them both without steady jobs. I held my complaints and kept looking for ways to help, but this is the result. Why did I ever think I should help people like them? I believed that one day they would appreciate my efforts and their attitude would soften, but the day never came. Isn't that a clear answer? They took 10 years of my time and the money I had carefully saved, and still they laughed, saying it's not enough and just small change. It's possible not to be angry. For 10 years, I served my son and his wife without a word, but that ends today. My name is Akiki, a housewife in my 50s. My husband passed away and I live alone. We had one son, Ruaji, who left home right after graduating from university. And now, he has a family with a woman he married. My son's house is nearby in Nairobi, but our relationship is strained. My son and his wife Nambi have, shall we say, a troubled past. After graduating from university, my son joined a regular company and married his co-worker. She quit her job to become a full-time housewife right after they got married. However, less than a year later, my son quit his job. Apparently, he had a conflict with his boss. Thinking he could easily find a new job, Ruwaji threw everything away over a single dispute. But the world didn't work the way he thought. No matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find a suitable job and eventually gave up on working altogether. And yet, Nambi showed no sign of wanting to work, and within a few months, they were struggling to make ends meet. To support them, I decided to send them a monthly allowance of 30,000 shillings. At first, they were tearfully grateful for my help. I hoped that one day they would overcome their financial struggles and become self-sufficient. However, 10 years later, my 30,000 shillings monthly allowance had turned from something they were grateful to receive into something they had taken for granted. One month, I was busy with a family event and couldn't meet them on the usual day to give them the allowance. That night, they came banging on my door. "Mama, we need you to give us the allowance on time. Are you forgetting things because you're getting old?" My son teased, but I was too tired and sleepy to respond properly. So I said, "I'll give it to you next time. Please go home for now." His wife turned red and shouted, "You need to stick to the schedule. Do you think you can get away with this just because you're my mother-in-law?" The sudden commotion woke me up, and I handed them 30,000 shillings that I had already prepared. "If you had given it to us from the start, this wouldn't have happened. I don't want to be rough with you, Akiki," she said. "Exactly. Please listen to us quietly in the future. When you get old, we will be the ones taking care of you. It's in your best interest to be nice to us now." I was furious at the brazen attitude, but I held back, fearing that confronting them might crush their pride and prevent them from ever standing on their own again. So I bit my tongue and said, "I'm sorry," smiling meekly. In hindsight, I realized my behavior was wrong from that point, but my desire for them to get back to their feet was so strong to change my approach. There were other unpleasant memories with them. One day, I received a call from a kind neighbor. "Akiki, do you have a moment? It's about your son and his wife." "What?" I asked. She explained that the house had signs of a break-in. The security camera footage showed that the culprits were my son and his wife. Although the house was ransacked, nothing was stolen, and understanding my situation, she chose not to call the police and contacted me instead. I left work early, contacting my son and his wife, and we went to apologize together. "We're truly sorry." There I was, apologizing sincerely, while my son and his wife showed no remorse. The neighbor frowned at the sight, but since nothing was stolen, the matter was settled, as long as I paid for the broken glass. However, on the way back, my son and his wife said something outrageous. Why are old people so narrow-minded? We just wanted to borrow a few things, Nambi said. I couldn't help but say, what? But my son and his wife ignored me. That's right, we didn't steal anything, even though we broke the glass and ransacked the place. Isn't it terrible that they scolded us so harshly? Nambi added. Ruwaji nodded and said, that's right. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, and I just stood there silently. I should have stood up to them and expressed my feelings back then, but my inability to do so was a sign of my weakness. That outrageous behavior continued, but unfortunately, the incident with the neighbor was the only major trouble they caused for anyone else. So I remained calm and continued to give them the monthly allowance, hoping they would eventually become self-sufficient. When they asked for things, I bought what I could afford. My son wanted money for gambling, and his wife wanted branded items to keep up appearances. Their demands escalated, and they began relying on me for everything. It went beyond money. They even called me over on weekends to do housework, leaving me no time to rest. Money is necessary for living, and since they had no means or willingness to earn it themselves, I had no choice but to support them as a mother. No matter how tired I was, I worked hard at my job and did their housework. As a result, my body was falling apart. I had dark circles under my eyes. My skin was rough, and dizziness became a daily occurrence. My son and his wife laughed, saying I looked like a monster. She even pointed at me saying, "You've given up on being a woman?" I didn't have the energy to protest. I knew I was at my limit, but I felt that if I didn't keep going, we would fall apart. I wish I could rely on someone else and stop trying so hard. One day while doing housework at their house, a minor matter led to a fight. Exhausted, I had no patience for their behavior. His wife said, "You're acting all mighty and high over 30,000 shillings. My son followed her lead and said, "I don't need your pocket change," and shoved the 30,000 shillings allowance back to me. "If you want to give us money, bring a decent amount." They laughed, looking down on me. Those words pushed me over the edge. "Fine, I'll stop then," I said, without thinking about the future of them. My son and his wife looked puzzled but started laughing as I gathered my things to leave. "Mama, stop joking. If we cut ties with you, you'll be alone. You can't survive without us," my son taunted. "Yeah, Kiki, you almost had me there with that joke, but seriously, that's not funny." They laughed, convinced I wouldn't stop the allowance. "Go ahead if you can, but if you do, we'll cut ties with you. If you can live alone, do it, as if you could. You'll take back your words soon," they said, laughing. Seeing how they treated me, completely unaware of how desperate I was, I finally woke up. Why should I keep supporting them, buying them things, and doing their housework? It only caused me pain and loss. They took advantage of my feelings, treated me like a servant, and even as I reached my limit, they acted like this. Though they were family on paper, I couldn't consider them family anymore. "Sorry, but I'm serious. You regret those words." Even then, they laughed, thinking I was joking. "If you think you can do it, go ahead, but you'll regret it soon enough. I can already see the future," my son said. Their words lit a fire in me. I was determined to make them understand how valuable I was and how unacceptable their behavior had become. As I packed my things to leave, all I could think about was how to make them pay. First, I cut all support to my son Ruwaji and his wife Nambi, as I had promised. No more allowance, no financial aid, no help with housework, nothing. For someone who had lived solely for their benefit, this was the first time I didn't consider them at all. I could rest without worrying about them. I could spend my money on myself and only do the housework that satisfied me. I feel true happiness from such things. My son and his wife had insisted that I couldn't cut ties and live alone. But the reality was the opposite. This life, free from their control, was what I had longed for over the past 10 years. Then I decided to take another step to corner them. The apartment they lived in was rented under my name after they had lost their house due to financial difficulties. Naturally, I was the one paying the rent. Having decided to cut off all the support, continuing to pay their rent would be inconsistent. So I contacted the apartment manager to terminate the lease. The manager, familiar with our situation, was flexible and accommodating. In a month, my son and his wife would be forced to leave, or the police would be involved. That night, I sent them a message. If you don't leave the apartment within a month, it will become a police matter. They read it immediately, and within 5 minutes, my phone rang. Mama, what the hell is going on? You want us out of the apartment? Where are we supposed to live? Ruwaji yelled as soon as I answered, with Nambi hysterical in the background. What do you mean? I said calmly. Have you forgotten that I was the one paying rent? Since I'm cutting off all support, it makes sense to terminate the lease, doesn't it? Cutting off all support? We never agreed to that. We thought you'd stop the allowance but continue everything else. The overly indulgent words coming from my son made me laugh out loud. Despite all the horrible things they say to me, they still expected support beyond the allowance. Their naive thinking made me dizzy. I had been treated like a servant, handing over my money, my time, and everything for them. I did it all, hoping they would become independent, but I was wrong. They were spoiled and would only take more if given the chance. It would have been better to take a stand and make them listen. I provided the allowance, financial support, and did their housework. I was in a higher position than they were, and they should have shown me respect. Yet they treated me as a tool, a convenient servant, an ATM, and even laughed at my exhaustion. Why did I keep working hard for such ungrateful people? I accepted their unreasonable behavior without complaint, even when they treated me poorly. I never responded, and they took only advantage of my feelings. Reaching my limit finally made me understand how selfish they were. They never saw me as a family, only as a tool. Why didn't I realize this sooner? Why did I keep serving them until I reached my breaking point? Why did I keep believing in them? Looking back, my actions seemed pathetic. I struggled, believing my son and his wife would become independent. But all my efforts were in vain. Alongside regret for my past actions, a deep anger towards them welled up within me. I couldn't be satisfied until I firmly confronted them. I needed to make them acknowledge their wrongdoings and apologize. Feeling this way, I opened my mouth again. Stop the allowance but continue other support? What kind of spoiled nonsense is that? I said, cutting Ruwaji off before he could respond. No buts. Listen, your lives have always depended on me. If I ever felt like not helping you, it would be over for you. You're lucky I was naive enough to hope you might become independent someday. That's why I kept supporting you out of kindness. That's right, Mama. You're a kind person. You don't really intend to abandon us, right? We just say those things in the heat of the moment. Let's go back to being a family. We won't say such harsh things again, okay? Ruwaji said. Don't be ridiculous. No matter how much I try to help you, you never had an intention of becoming independent. You were planning to live off of me, weren't you? Ruwaji tried to correct himself in the panic. No, that's not true. We wanted to be independent, but we couldn't. We couldn't bring ourselves to find jobs. And Nambi felt the same. We tried in our own way, but it was impossible. I almost laughed at his words. We tried in our own way? For years, they showed no sign of looking for jobs or saving money. They just lived comfortably off my support. Where is the effort in that? Listen, Mama, we couldn't express it well, but we knew we could live our lives thanks to you. We knew we'd be in trouble without you. So let's start over, okay? You need us too, right? What? Are you serious? Why would I need you? One of you is a fool who couldn't hold a job because of a single incident and spends all day lazying around. The other is a so-called housewife who has no manners and acts selfish. Why would I need you? You have no idea how much pain I've been through because of you two. Earning money for you every day, even on days off, doing your chores. Do you think I enjoyed that? I've had enough. I'm no longer foolish enough to want to be a family with you. Don't say such terrible things, Mama. We need you. Without someone like you to support us, we'll... Even after all this, Ruaji still tried to push his opinion. As I wondered what to do, I heard Nambi shout, "Give me the phone!" followed by an argument. Then she came on the line. "Akiki, I'm sick of your son's selfish behavior. A real man works to support his family, but your son just wasted his time. I've regretted marrying him every day. I'm a victim just like you. Please help me. I can't manage without you," she pleaded. She was throwing Ruaji under the bus, trying to save herself. Stand by her attitude, I stayed silent. "I'll do anything you want. Be your servant. Whatever you need. Just don't abandon me," she begged. As those words were spoken, I could hear them arguing and fighting over the phone again. The noise was so loud that I frowned, and then the line abruptly went dead, as if it had knocked into something. I didn't hear from them again, and days passed. It seemed that incident severely damaged their marriage, and they ended up divorcing. They fought over everything, including alimony, making the divorce messy. Afterward, they both tried to contact me, but by then, I had blocked their numbers, so their messages never reached me. My son took a job at a factory, working day and night to make ends meet. His ex-wife Nambi returned to her parents in tears and confessed everything, receiving a harsh reprimand. She came to apologize with her parents, but was crying so much I couldn't understand her. Since then, I've been living for myself for 10 long years. I never had the chance to value my own time, so living for myself felt incredibly refreshing and liberating. I lost my son and his wife, becoming truly alone, but it wasn't so bad. I don't know what the future holds. There might come a time when I can't just live alone anymore, but until then, I will enjoy living just for myself.